What's the haps? I'm Meroka, and today I'm going to be taking a look at Luxuria Superbia, a game by Tales of Tales, released a couple of days ago on Steam. It's been around a little longer on other formats. It's a quirky, artistic kind of game, very much a games as art sort of thing. Something the studio seems to be notable for. They seem to have a legacy of creating that kind of thing. It's a little bizarre, so I'm going to jump right in and show you what the heck's going down, because that's probably the best way to do it. So we start out here, falling as we are through a flower which is asking us to touch it. There's a lot of reference to touching in the game, and this perhaps shows its legacy as initially a tablet and mobile device game, but given the context, I think it's very, very forgivable, because the entire game seems to be one huge sexual metaphor. There's nothing ever particularly explicit in the game, but it is extremely raunchy. So the game is going to be asking us to touch it, and I don't like the way it occasionally says burning. You know, if this is supposed to be foreplay, I wouldn't want any burning in my foreplay. And indeed, the game does, in fact, refer to this section of the game. This early, music's a bit quiet, kind of just start getting things started sort of section, as foreplay. There's a little counter up in the top left corner, which is counting down. You've got this circle that's decreasing, and once that's empty, that's the end of the foreplay section of the game. And basically, by touching all of these pods, buds I suppose they are, it's a flowery metaphor, isn't it? By touching all these buds at the side, we can bring colour into the flower, and by filling up the flower full of colour, we can pleasure it and reach climax. But you don't want to do that too soon, because as I say, you know, sexual metaphor and everything, you wouldn't want to do that in the real world, in the bedroom, so why would you want to disappoint the flower by finishing too soon? You would not. So there we go. Now we can do this. The music picks up a bit. It's got a dynamic musical soundtrack, so it's going to change as you play, which is kind of cool. I like that. So as you get further into the level, as you reach climax, music gets more intense, and you know, basically the game here is just to keep everything colourful and keep going for as long as possible. Your score will go up as long as you keep going and there is colour in the flower. The more colour, the more your score, and the longer you can sustain it, the better. So almost got a silver medal here. If you don't get points just for falling with everything white. If you don't bother touching the flower, you will not be scored. You cannot cheat the system that way. Never let you go. I won't, flower. I shall not. So yeah, by keeping the colours full here, I'm gonna see if I can get a gold medal here. I think I can. It seems fairly straightforward. There are these white ones here, which if you touch them, you will drain that section of colour. Then the game never gives you a great deal of instruction, so the elements like that are thrown at you and you're just expected to learn from your mistakes. But given that there's no time limit, and indeed quite the contrary, you're expected to keep going for as long as possible, it's not a big deal. You can quite happily learn from your mistakes, and it's part of the experience, I feel. So there we go. Now we're in climax mode. We can burst all these buds, and there's a fourth section around the meter in the top corner, and as you burst these, the meter will go up, and when it reaches the top, we will reach the flood section. No prizes for guessing what that's supposed to be a metaphor for. Here we go, we are flooding, and we get to collect seeds during the flood. Yeah, quite. And you will also get an additional grade at the end depending on how long you managed to make the climax last. I suspect that wasn't quite long enough to make the grade here, but there we go. The flowers seem to like it. And there we go. We've got all these pillars in the garden holding up the temple. There we go. We've just got one heart. That's the basic grade. You get little arrows come through the heart as well if you do really, really well and make it last for ages. So yeah, we've got two views in the garden here. We've got the temple with its pillars, and you can see I played through the previous levels a few times because I've already filled out those pillars. The orange one, that's taken me a couple of attempts to get to that. But yeah, each time you play a level, it will tack a section of the pillar onto your previous one up until so you reach the maximum, basically. And the top section of it is your most recent performance. Everything else is everything that came before. I've also got these sections, these segments around it. These will fill up with colour the more seeds you collect at the end of a level. So I have not collected a great many seeds in the orange level. Pink could use some work, but I'm doing okay in the red and yellow, clearly. So, to deal with the game's options, as is something I tend to do, the game is a Unity game, so it's got the... I can't show you any options in-game, but it's got the usual launcher options. You can pick whether you have windowed mode or the various resolutions, so yeah, you've got options there. You've got graphics options, you've got Superbia or no effects are your options in that score. I presume the no effects is just the equivalent of the older mobile device format, and Superbia is the enhanced PC and Mac version. You've also got gamepad integration, which allows rebindable controls. Not that I'm sure you'd want to do that, because it works pretty well as is. If you were to start messing with that, you might have issues. But hey, let's go into this, and I can show you the gamepad integration. So hey, this is what I've been doing so far with the mouse. The PC uses the mouse. Okay, sure, the standard PC format. You can play this with a mouse, and you can do this. But, and I really like this. I like this a lot. You can just pick up the pad mid-level and just switch formats. And suddenly I've got 2 analog sticks, so I've got 2 inputs. On your touchscreen devices, you can actually have, you know, as many inputs as you like. You can have multi-touch, so multiple people can gather around one tablet and play it. And indeed, the game encourages you to do that. You can share your sexual experience with friends. Why would you not want to do that? So, just for giggles here, I'm going to finish this level extremely early, and I don't think it's going to be very happy about it, but just want to show you. I go, oh no, we have finished before the foreplay period has ended. This is the greatest sexual tragedy of all time. It's not great. That's never happened before. I should clarify. Oops, the game says. That doesn't happen. No. That's never happened to me before. But there you go. It is entirely possible to thoroughly disappoint your partner. Which is a bit of a giggle. If nothing else, just as an addition to the game. I'm not advocating disappointing your partner as a bit of a giggle, but it's a quirky little touch that they've added that to the game. So the interface in the game, as you can see in the corners, has got X and Y on the Xbox pad integration there. It doesn't actually change to a PC format when you do that, but quite frankly, whilst that would normally irk me, in this particular instance, the only actual keyboard and mouse input it uses is literally just the mouse. There is no keyboard input, so I'm not too bothered about that in this particular instance. I can probably let that one slide. And whether those actually disappear entirely if you unplug the pads, not quite certain, but it may well do. So, this game, there's not much more to show you than this. That's most of the gameplay. There's obviously however many levels there are. I've neglected to count. About 12, I reckon, there. 1, 2, 3, 4, yeah, 12 levels. So there's 12 levels to play through. It's all going to be more of the same, just getting a little bit more intense every time and more interesting levels. Perhaps there'll be some more new mechanics. Obviously, those white buds that disappoint the flower aren't thrown at you till some of the later levels, so it's entirely possible there'll be more of those later on. Right now, it's available with a 10% launch discount on Steam, retailing at $6.99. It's also available through the Luxuria Superbia website on the Humble widget for $6.99. But that will not give you a Steam key right now, but it will give you a DRM-free format as well as the Android format. And it's worth noting that most games sold through the Humble store often tend to give you a Steam key, at least later down the line, if not immediately. So it's likely that that will pop up later. I make no guarantees, but given the history, I wouldn't be surprised to see that. On iOS, you can pick it up on iTunes for $3.99, Android the same $3.99, and indeed, if you're one of those strange and rare creatures like myself who happen to pick up an Ouya for whatever strange reason, you can also pick it up on the Ouya for $3.99. So your options to play this game are not in the slightest bit limited. You can play it on damn near anything, it seems. So, thank you very much for watching. I've been Meroka, this has been Luxuria Superbia, and I shall see you next time. Yeah!